down the world's darkest highways into the vast unknown. Yours truly, David Barnabas Spector, leads you on a unique journey into the minds of professional wrestlers, paranormal investigators, and an array of human and inhuman oddities. This is Radio Dark. And joining me on this episode is someone, let's just say I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with. She has appeared on WWE television as well as in rings throughout the United States and around the globe. She is the only female member of the 5 Most Wanted and the only individual to win the Super Zeta Memorial Championship belt. She is future Great Wrestling's own, and very much, at times, a pain in my side. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the pretty little psycho, SHAWNA REED, to Radio Dark. SHAWNA, against my better judgment, here we are.
Here we are, David, and I just have to say, I am honored to be a pain in your butt.
And here it begins. So, despite our differences over the years, there have been times, actually, where you and I have gotten along, shall I say, famously. It's been quite some time since we've spoken. And during this time of quarantine, this time of global pandemics and the zombie apocalypse, as our friend Sin Bodhi would say, during that point in time, I have tried my best. I have tried to fill my cold, dark heart with love and forgiveness and kumbaya and all that great stuff. And I've tried to reach out to individuals like William Wolf and Hooks, and now you, SHAWNA REED, because it's the year 2020. So much has gone on this year, so much devastation, that I feel it's the right thing to do to try to mend fences, to try to extend the olive branch. So that's why we're here. Even though there's a nagging feeling within my very bone marrow, my being, that perhaps this is a drastic mistake. This wouldn't be the first time I made a mistake concerning you. We are here. So regardless, I value you as a top-tier female performer, not just in the United States, but throughout the entire world. You've been on WWE TV. Obviously, you have a passion for the wrestling business. Most everyone that's involved in the business in one way, shape, or form started out being a fan and then somehow meandered their own unique path into starting training and stepping on the other side of the barricade to begin the journey into this crazy art form we call professional wrestling. So, little Miss SHAWNA REED, would you be so kind as to let our listeners know here on Radio Dark what made you fall in love with professional wrestling initially, and how exactly did you get involved in regards to training?
Well, first, let's just restart from this, David. The real reason that you contacted me to be on your podcast is because you just missed me so dearly, and you just couldn't go another day without hearing my voice.
Oh, good grief.
And just begging to talk to me. I know. Everybody, you can see my inbox, David. He just hits me up all the time begging to, just say hi, and sometimes I, ignore him and he gets upset. But anyways, how I fell in love or got into the wrestling business, when I was a little psycho, my brother and I would fight over our PlayStation 2. And my mom made times that me and my brother would have to would get to play, like because we fought so much about it. And when it was my brother's turn, if I wanted to play, I had to play the video game that, he wanted to play. And he wanted to play, of course, WWE. And then he would quiz me on, names of superstars that, come up before the match starts. And when I first started playing wrestling, I didn't really realize this was an actual real thing. I didn't know what WWE was. I didn't know what wrestling really was. But then, my brother kind of got me on the kick, and the first person I ever memorized as, going through the matches was Chris Benoit. So, coincidentally. And so, starting to watch that, I also became, playing the video game. I started, getting into the characters who were actually these real-life people that I didn't know were. So I remember turning it on one night and, seeing who The Undertaker was, who Kane was, who Shawn Michaels was, Trish Stratus, Lita, all these people that I was playing on the video game, and figuring out who they were and, watching them do amazing things and tell an incredible stories. So that's pretty much, what started the fandom in me, and it kind of, juiced my need to join the business. But, everybody goes through that stage where they stop watching wrestling and they, kind of just, let it go. I mean, at least almost everybody. I did. And then randomly I turned it on one day in my condo just to see what was going on, and I got hooked again. And I found that love that I knew I loved from when I was a kid, and I knew I had to do this. So the rest is history, David.
It's I always find it interesting because the video game phenomenon came a little after my time. I've got a few years on you, Shawna Reed. But I know a lot of individuals that video games were the gateway to them falling in love with professional wrestling. So to me, that's incredibly interesting because it's so different from the way that I fell in love with the business, watching World Class out of Texas or getting the magazines that were on the newsstands pre the internet days. But when you decided that you wanted to take that next step and to actually not just watch it on TV or play as a character on a video game, but you actually wanted to try your hand at becoming the real life character in the game, how did you go about finding a place to train, and talk about that early experience of first stepping inside of a ring?
Well, at that time, I was engaged, and I had expressed to my fiance at that time that this is what I wanted to do, and he seemed supportive, and he said that he had an uncle in the business that, could show me the ropes. This guy didn't even have a ring or anything. He was literally coming over to my house. He would pull the mattress out of my bedroom, and he would show me how to bump on a mattress. But, and I did that for about 2 months. And this man ultimately ended up, stealing my identity and, opening, 5 credit cards in my name and maxing them out. Yeah. So, the only two good things ever came from that trainer, well, if you even want to call him a trainer, was he gave me my first pair of wrestling boots for free. So there was that. And then he mentioned the name Cody-Hawk. And
okay.
At that time, I was a big Dean Ambrose fan, huge. That was my celebrity crush. And, one of them. And,
we'll talk more about that later, but there's been plenty of them.
Well, anyways, but so, once that all happened, I had to, once he saw my identity and all that stuff, I had to go through the police, and finally, that all got taken care of, and everything got fixed with that, broke up with the fiance, which was a blessing in disguise. But then, so I contacted Cody when my life was back on track. And I expressed my interest in wrestling, and I asked him if he, trained girls, and he said he did. So I started that next week out of a little building in Franklin, Ohio, and it was absolutely mortifying. I was terrified because growing up, I was allowed to watch wrestling, but on TV. But I wasn't allowed to, my parents would not let me go to, events with. My parents weren't at that time very supportive of their daughter wanting to, and getting into wrestling. So I didn't even know the names of a lot of the basic moves. I knew suplex. I knew, DDT. I knew, the bigger moves that you see a lot of them do. But I didn't know, smaller moves, like headlock takeover or, head scissor kick out. I didn't know, just basic stuff, like wrist lock. I didn't know this stuff. So I was the only girl in this class of 12 to 14 guys. So that was already intimidating. And then not knowing any of these moves, and when, with Cody, how he teaches you to call stuff in the ring or on the fly, and he wants you to, call a move to him, and you don't know what any moves are called, or, he just said it, but there's so much going on when you're learning that, there's so much that your brain just tries to, get, and sometimes just the simple move names, get skipped over. So I didn't know, and I really, really struggled at first, hardcore struggled, but, eventually, I got it, and this is where we're at today.
Well, I mean, so out of a failed fiance, you at least got a pair of boots. So
exactly.
That's I consider that a win. I would say that's a good start. But so you went and were trained by Cody-Hawk. Cody-Hawk, the 2019 Cauliflower Alley Club award recipient for Trainer of the Year. The man responsible for training former WWE World Champion and the current AEW World Champion Jon Moxley, former Impact World Champ Eli Drake, and former Impact Champ Sami Callihan. So, that's quite an impressive resume of individuals he's had a hand in training, including you. And, so with that experience and with that pedigree, before you became the pretty little psycho, you were the stubborn angel, if I remember correctly. What happened? What caused the change in direction of the personality? Where did the stubborn angel, where did she go? Why was she replaced with the pretty little psycho? Because the person I know is definitely more on the psycho side. But rather than me put words into your mouth, please elaborate for the listeners, if you will.
Well, going into wrestling, when I got into it, I got into it again, I really like the character. I love AJ Lee. I love her. And like I said, I was a big, when Jon Moxley was Dean Ambrose, I'm still a huge Jon Moxley fan. But, and so they had the little, more crazier gimmick. And I always wanted to do that kind of gimmick, but in my own way. But, when you get into the business and you're learning and you're figuring out who you are, there's always these stepping stones. And I actually got called a stubborn angel, just like when I was working out with, coincidentally, the Heavy Metal Viking Hook. So we were at Planet Fitness, and we were talking about something, and he ended up calling me just a stubborn angel, and then that's what stayed right there when I became the stubborn angel. And then just, evolving over the years and finally, figuring out who I want to be, what look I want, I decided, I'm going to step out of my comfort zone, and I'm going to be this character that I've always wanted to be. I don't want to be this psychotic, she needs to be in a straitjacket kind of character. I want to be this, evil genius psychotic person, pretty much like the Joker or the Riddler. I really look after